So we've just checked out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and it is pretty damn good. But is it better than the first one?
No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, let's see how this goes.
That's a really bad sign.
So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is once again directed by James Gunn, who did the first film. He also did Super, and this guy's a really crazy, cool director. He's incredibly passionate about films, and it shows. Now, this sees the whole team return once more, and we also try to find out who Star-Lord's dad really is, and what's going on with him.
Yeah, the plot kind of opens like we're just kind of hanging out with the Guardians doing their thing, and then through a kind of chain of seemingly kind of unrelated events, like it kind of just strings on thing to thing, and then we end up basically exploring who Star-Lord's dad is. And I think it's actually a really interesting setup for the film, because what it does is it focuses in on continuing the story. This is actually like a Marvel movie that doesn't necessarily feel connected to anything else. It's not connected to the Avengers currently, or basically anything else in the universe. It's just doing its own thing. It's very much a sequel to Guardians 1. There's nothing that's happened in between.
100%, and I don't know, like, I really dug the way they went about it as well, because I thought it was going to really build around, like, who Star-Lord's dad is, and then finally get to him maybe, like, halfway through the film or the third act, but it jumps straight to it almost, like, within that first act, and then it kind of, like, sits our characters all down.
It's about relationships, I think, in that stage.
And we get to explore them more, not bog them down, but, like, they all get, you know, like, their own little place in the film, and they all get their own arc, which was really, really cool.
I won't even say little. I actually think there's a lot of focus here on these characters, and obviously the movie is massive amounts of fun the whole time, and you know you're going to get that with a Guardians movie. It's what the trailer is selling, but basically it spends a lot of time working on building on what we already know from the first Guardians film. You can watch this without having seen Guardians 1, but knowing what we know from that film, seeing all these characters kind of progress and their relationships continue, and they kind of actually, I mean, they genuinely feel like a family, which I think is really important, and we get to see everyone really gets a time to shine. We get like Drax, Rocket, Baby Groot obviously steals the show in pretty much every scene, and there's some really interesting stuff between Gamora and Nebula as well. There's some interesting kind of that sisterhood thing post Thanos that's really interesting to explore, and that was one of my favorite parts of the film.
And I think for me, the one thing that really, really worked here was the tone of the film, because it was, for me, like, it was just this ultimate balance of both drama and comedy. All Marvel films have always done that. We've always gone into Marvel films, they've always got that light-hearted energy and feel to them. But like this one, I don't know, like it brought me to tears at one point, and I was almost in a fit of tears laughing as well throughout the film. So it had just a real nice balance of that.
It did get me to that same point as well. There was an actual point here that was so effective that it made me tear up. And I think this movie across the board is kind of hard to fault. On an objective level. My issues with it are more personal things where I would have been like, I kind of wish they hadn't done that. I wish they could have got more out of this. And that being said, with the emotional thing, I did still find it has that same Marvel issue, for me at least, where there's a scene that's really emotional and I'm really getting into it, and then about 15 seconds later they break it with a tone change, like it goes straight back to like a joke or something else. The joke is funny, but it just needed a bit more time, because I was like, man, I'm really feeling this right now, and it's like, boom, joke hits. And the thing is, the jokes do mostly work in this film across the board, and I was laughing and enjoying myself the whole time. It just, the kind of end part of this film is really emotional. I just kind of wish it was a bit heavier, I guess.
I don't know, yeah, I suppose for
that's
you.
For me.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like, when this film ended, I was like, well done, James Gunn.
It's got a really
like,
powerful ending.
An amazing ending, and a really, really nice last shot. I was like, yes, James Gunn. Like, he's stuck to his characters here. He kind of didn't really care too much about like the overarching MCU, and Marvel really did let him do what he wanted to do with this sequel, which was great. And he got to explore all these characters further, and in such an, I don't know, incredibly fun and fantastic sort of way. And touching on technicals quickly as well, soundtrack once again here is present and fantastic.
Really
I
good.
loved all these choices. All the songs were great. I don't think as many people might like them as much, but they're a lot more personal here. Also, cinematography was really, really sweet at time. Yondu's opening scene blew me away with the lighting, but the thing is, you could tell when they were using practical lights on set, and when it was like just VFX.
There's a couple of times it was a bit stiff, I think.
There was a lot of VFX in post where it was just a lot of color, but it was a nice balance.
Production design was really good as well, though. There was some awesome costumes. I do think there's still more that James Gunn can push when he does Guardians 3 out of the visual comedy, because there was times where it was like hitting that Edgar Wright kind of fast editing visual jokes, and then other times where it was kind of just just happening. So I think if he can punch more out of that,
I think that's just a
I'd like that
restriction to
more.
the studio environment as well.
I'd like that more, but I think he's doing fine with what he's got. So I think, yeah, on a technical level, the movie works really well as well, so that's worth noting. Now, obviously, when we started, we both were on a different kind of level here with which Guardians film we like more. I like the first one more, and I can't really say why, and it's not really a whole lot more. I think it's just my personal thing for origin stories. I much prefer kind of origin stories with comic book films because I like to see that drama that happens before we start going to action, because usually the following films, the sequels, are a lot more action orientated because we don't have to get so much time setting up the people. So I do really respect Guardians 2 for spending so much time kind of focusing on building the team, but there was a lot of kind of decisions in the second film story-wise where I think things could have been rearranged or reprioritized to give them a bit more heft, whereas in the first film it kind of just did exactly what it needed to do. And the thing is as well was that I think Guardians 1 kind of took me by surprise, and it took a lot of people by surprise. And it was more than we expected, I guess, from a Marvel movie, whereas this movie here, I kind of saw the trailer, I got what I expected, I'm cool with that, but it just didn't really do anything more for me, which I was kind of hoping for.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to be like, it's going to be either A or B. I mean, a bit like John Wick, you're either going to like the first one more or the second one more. It's just kind of how it is. Like, it's not as if one's like, no, this is definitely the better one.
But by no means does that make either of them a bad movie.
No, not at all. It's just kind of like how you personally feel towards them and what you really got out of it. And I mean, for me, especially with this one, I almost felt like a Star Trek episode in a way. Like, we already knew these characters, we already knew what they were like, they were acting quite the same, and then we just got to explore that further, and we got to explore it in kind of, I don't know, each scene with them was very personal, and they're all kind of alone. And especially, I'm going to mention Yondu's character is here as well. We already know that James Gunn has a strong relationship with Michael Rooker, the actor, and it was great to see him really further explore like that on screen. Especially Michael Rooker's performance as Yondu here is fantastic, and he adds such an emotional levity to it.
Kurt Russell as Ego as well was fantastic, and I do obviously want to say, like, for me, Dave Bautista as Drax is just amazing. Like, honestly, he's so enjoyable to watch, and the fact he has so much heart at the same time as being this, like, total badass who's just got the weirdest kind of being ever was really exciting. The new characters as well. Mantis was pretty cool. Yeah, obviously we said Ego was pretty fantastic. The only person who didn't really work for me was Elizabeth Debicki, who's kind of this extra villain type character.
But I will say, like, her character and her little world that they have going on is freaking hilarious.
Really interesting, yeah, really interesting stuff there. But I think, yeah, overall, I just wasn't really as impressed by this film as I was hoping to be, but by no means does that make it not good, because it is a very, very good movie. And so overall, I think we end up with a movie that most of us were expecting to get, and I think it's one of those movies where the only reason you're not going to like it is if you actively went into it not wanting to like it. This movie is a lot of fun. It has a lot of different things for a lot of different people, so I think it's one of those things where you'd have to honestly be like, well, fucking Guardians, actually say, like,
and I think the good thing here as well is James Gunn's made a film that people can just kind of go out and watch. They don't necessarily have to watch all the MCU films, and they can just see Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and have even more fun with this sequel.
You can just go and see this one, and that's fine.
Exactly, yeah. It's a really good time. So anyway, it brings us to ratings, and I'm giving this one an 8.1 out of 10.
I'm giving this one a 7.6. How weird is when we disagree. So that was our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Have you seen it yet?
Did you like it?
Did you hate it?
Did you like this video?
Of course you did.
Crave more banter?
If so, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere.
And you can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banter.